Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. This is part 2 in our series on lawnmower maintenance. This particular lawnmower is a Cadet XT1 LT46. It's got the Kohler engine in it, 22 horsepower 7000 series. Hopefully you can see that. They do have another one that's like an 18 or a 20, I can't remember, so the oil specs and stuff like that may be a little bit different, just depending on which power plant you have. And I think even some of the XT2s have a Kawasaki engine, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm sure their oil requirements are a little bit different than this particular engine. But what we're going to do here is go over the oil change procedure on this. It's really easy. I don't even think I'm going to need any tools to do this job. So first thing we're going to need is some sort of a low profile pan. I happen to have an old pizza pan here, and it will slide right underneath the deck and right into position where we need it down there. What you want to do is get right in this area right here. You've got a oil drain plug here, and there's a little clip. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that or not, but it's clipped on back here. You just pull that out carefully, and as you can see, there's a twist off thing here, so you don't even need a wrench for this, more than likely. If it's real stiff, it looks like there's a couple of flat spots here where you can put a wrench on if necessary. So what we're going to do first off is we're going to get set up, and I'm going to drain all this oil out that we can get out. Not a bad idea to go ahead and pull the dipstick out just to allow the thing to flow out a little better. And also, before I pulled it in the shop here, I washed it off and I ran it for like, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes to let the engine get good and warm so that we'll have nice flow when we go to drain this thing. So let me get set up here and we'll go over the procedures. We're going to get in here and crack this loose first. Should be really easy. Just grab a hold of it real nice and tight. Yeah, it's an O-ring seal, so it shouldn't be any problem. Oh, one thing I want to do right quick, because somebody else recommended it, was I bought some nitrile gloves, nitrile, however you say it. They're I happen to have a latex allergy, so I can't wear a latex glove. So let me grab those. Because that commenter was correct. You know, you don't want to be bathing your skin in oil and stuff. Although, to be out here at this time of the evening when it's cool enough that I can work on this thing, I have to spray DEET all over myself because the mosquitoes are just awful this year. So we get our Safety Sally gloves on, and we'll crack this loose and go ahead and drain it out. It's definitely time for a change. And we're just going to let that drain until it completely stops. And depending on how big of a hurry you're in, I personally kind of like to let it drain, you know, about 10 or 15 minutes. So what I may have to do is grab a pair of vice grips and lightly clamp this thing where it'll stay in a downward position like that. Because if I let go of it right here, it's going to, oh, there it went. It twisted a little. Okay, that should be good. I'll just watch that for a few minutes, and hopefully it won't twist back and end up going all over the top of my deck. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Okay, I've given her about 10 minutes. It's still dripping just a little bit, but while it's dripping here and finishing off, I'm going to go ahead and twist this off. You may have to get an actual tool to get this off, depending on how strong your hands are and also how tight you put it on previously. I think I'll be able to break this thing loose by hand. If not, they make a special tool that you can slip over the end here and get a socket and an extension, or a ratchet and an extension, and take that loose. Or there's another type that you can actually, that just clamps onto the thing from the side, and you can just twist it off with that. So depending on your hand strength and how long the thing's been on there, you may have to get a tool. So let's give this a go. It's good and warm. And some oil is going to spill out of here, so be prepared for that. You want to kind of do it quickly. And spin it up like that. As soon as you pull it off, spin it up like that. Okay, last time I put a pH 2835 on here. and it was just a slight bit long. I refused to pay $12 for an oil filter because the little dirty secret is these oil filter manufacturers, they're all, I mean, not all of them are made at the same exact place, but there's only a few places that make oil filters, and Kohler is not one of them. So they're buying from Fram or from Bosch or from somebody, STP or this company here, Parts Plus, whoever, you know. A lot of times these are all the same, these same 4 or 5 companies that make all of these filters. So it's the similar deal with the riding lawnmowers themselves. So be aware of that, guys. If you can get a filter for $3.99 that'll do the same job as the $12 filter or $14 filter, then I suggest you do that. So this one worked out great for me. I ran this filter I think 2 times since I actually made the video about the review on this lawnmower. So we're gonna just dump this out. And on one of my commenters' recommendations, I went with a different size oil filter. So we're going to get that out. It's a Fram. I'm not usually a real fanboy of Fram, but it's what they had available at Walmart. There were 2 different numbers that I could have gotten, and I can't remember what those numbers were at the moment, but I'll type them in here or put them down in the doobly-doo thing down below. But either way, call me a cheapskate if you want, that's fine, but I call it being frugal, and I want to, you know, stretch my money as far as possible, so I usually go the cheap route on oil filters. So hold on, I'll get the new one out. And actually, I want to do a little comparison on this. This is the first time I've used this one. They had this on the shelf at Walmart for like $3.99. As you can see, it's the PH3614. There was another one that was this one's the Tough Guard, I think, but there was another one that was a little more expensive. I can't remember the name of it now. But what I want to do is compare the overall height of both of these filters, because one problem I had with this one was it was a little long and it would rub here only when you turned all the way to the lock on one, I can't remember which way, right or left. One of the ways, when you turn it all the way to the lock, it would rub the thing just a little bit. Hence this little part right here where the paint's been removed. And I took a little heat for it, but again, I know how these filters are made, so I know it didn't hurt a thing, but I took a hammer and I kind of gave her a couple taps right there. Nothing real crazy, but enough to relieve it so that when that bar ran across there, it wasn't going to damage my suspension or the filter. So anyways, let's check it out. Okay, this one appears to be just slightly, the new one that I picked up appears to be slightly shorter, so I'm hoping I won't have any clearance issues. And when we're done, I usually take mine outside and hose it off right there. I don't know if I'll do that tonight because it's getting a little dark, and I like to do it in the sun so that I can let it dry off a little while in the heat of the day. Anyways, that's looking pretty good. Clean all that off, and we're still dripping just a little bit there. Not a whole lot, but I'm going to keep letting it go. And one thing you could do, I'm not going to do it this time, but you could go ahead and run like a quarter of a quart or a half of a quart of fresh oil through this and just let it run out, and that would get any of the impurities that were sitting around in the bottom of the crankcase. That would get those flushed out for the most part. I usually do that, but since we're filming here and trying to keep it flowing, we're not going to do that. So before you install your new filter, of course, if you're changing over to a different number, you kind of want to inspect it and make sure that it's going to work out and it's going to be the same. They look the same. So as you can see, there's an oil all around this. I'm just going to take this one and twist it on there so that I get some oil on there like that. And you can just dip your finger down in there and get a little bit of used motor oil on there. That's going to help that slide on and form a good seal. So we're going to screw this guy on, being careful not to cross thread anything. Okay, there it is. And the way I do them, and again, use your discretion. If you have weak hands, you're going to want to use a tool to do this, but if you have pretty strong hands, then you can just grab a hold of it, get it on there about as tight as you can get it by hand. There we go. And even then, I'm not going Hercules type by hand. I just went on about a half a grunt worth. I don't know what to tell you. It's not really something you can torque down. Okay, so we're done draining. We're going to grab our drain plug, clean it off, inspect the O-ring. It looks good. Go all the way around it, make sure you don't have any swelling or tears going on. If you did, change that O-ring. And then we're going to grab this, reinstall here. Again, careful not to cross thread. Stick it all the way on, screw it on, give it a wipe down so it'll be nice and clean next time. If you leave it all oily and grimy, it's going to collect dirt and grass. It's going to get really dirty right there. Last thing to do, now that we know we're good and tight, clip it back in. And then it's time to fill up the engine. I searched online on Google. They say this engine takes 2 quarts of oil, so that's what we're going to put in. Also, they tell you on the little sticker right here, I believe, that it takes a 10W30 oil. So, again, some of you guys may disagree with this, but I'm going to go with this Shell Rotella T5. It's actually a diesel motor oil, 15W40, but I use this in my Honda, and it works great in that. It's air cooled and it calls for 1030 in the Honda. So this will be the first time I'm going to try this. If it doesn't work out for any reason, I'll let you know, but honestly I don't think there's any reason that it wouldn't. The Honda likes this stuff, and I assume this is going to. Now this one's a synthetic blend. You can get non-synthetic if you want, but I like to be able to run the same oil in at least 2 or 3 different things. That way I'm not having to stock up on a whole bunch of different kinds of oil. I just hate that. So we're going to add 2 quarts. Now, if you want to be safe, just get your lawn and garden variety 10W30, which is what it calls for. I might add, I live in a really hot climate here, so that's part of the reason I'm doing this. All right, I put a little bit less than 2 quarts in, and we're showing right on the full dot there. So I'm going to leave it there, and we're going to check it again right after we run it, see how much that filter sucks up. So everything's good. We can move our oil pan out of the way now, and we're ready to start it up. Letting it idle down kind of low at first so that it'll build up pressure. Now we're going to rev it up. Okay, so it sounded good, everything sounded nice. So now we're going to wait a second or two and pull that dipstick and see how much we need to add, if any. I imagine we'll have to add just a couple of splashes here. Wipe it off real good. This thing's prone to collect dust and dirt right here, so clean that off real well. Okay, I don't know if you guys are going to pick that up or not, but I need to add just a couple of splashes here. Probably like 1/4 of a quart, I would guess. So we're going to do that, top it off, bring it up to the F there. This little dot right here is what you're looking for. You want oil in that dot, not above. It's real important on these systems. Don't overfill them, because oil systems and transmissions and stuff like that, if you overfill them, they can cause you to blow out seals, and that's no good, of course. So only go to full. Actually, you're safe in this range, anywhere in between the 2 dots, but I personally like to go all the way to full, because these things only hold 2 quarts, so you want as much oil in there as you can get without exceeding the level. So here we go, let's add a little more. if you did accidentally overfill it, you saw how easy it was to disconnect that oil plug there and drain a little out. So no big deal, just don't run it that way. And there we have it, right to the F, right where we want it. Just to verify, double check. And there we go, that's perfect. Hopefully you guys are picking that up. All right, that's how you change the oil. Next up in the series, we're going to go ahead and grease the steering parts on this thing and look around for any greasable points. I know the wheels are greasable and the front suspension parts are steering parts are greasable, so we're going to take care of all of that and grease this gear inside of there. Until then, guys, appreciate you tuning in, and hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, if this helped you out. And if it didn't help you out and you're some kind of a snarky, then go ahead and leave your comments down below. I like reading them. So anyways, until then, we'll see you next time. Oh yeah, almost forgot to show you guys. That filter is perfect. Look at that, all the way turned, and I still got clearance in between there. And of course, this way, it doesn't get anywhere close to it. So that's a great upgrade.